Hello and welcome back. So this is going to be round 2 of Man Stares at Screen and Talks Piffle. Um, just a couple of disclaimers before I start. So basically I stole NYT Books' video. So I'll leave the link to his basically exactly the same format as this video, but done much better. I'll leave his video down below. So if you haven't seen it already, watch that. And the other little disclaimer is you're likely to hear a bit of dog noise probably this morning. It's a bit earlier today and they have a little bit more energy in the morning, so you might hear some growls, some tippy-tappies, or just some heavy breathing. I don't know how much this microphone picks up. Currently have a dog just behind the computer right now. Seems to have settled down a little bit. I just gave him a high value treat, so I think that might have calmed down a little bit. So hopefully no interruptions. But if you do hear all that stuff, don't be freaked out. I just have 2 very stimulated dogs. Okay, let's get back onto it. So this is 49 to number 1. Hopefully get this done in like 15 to 20 minutes, but let's see how it goes. So 49 is The Vegetarian by Han Kang, translated by Deborah Smith. Yeah, no, I don't think I have any intention of reading this. I've heard so much about it. It was a very big talked about book. 2016, so 2016 to, I feel like even during the pandemic, people were reading it still and talking about it, and never really appealed to me, and I'm a vegetarian, so I feel like I'm probably in the wheelhouse for this book, but I don't want to read it. Persepolis by Marianne Satrapi, 2003. I watched the movie when the movie was first released. I watched it in the cinema. Amazing movie. I think one of the most successful parts of the movie is capturing the artwork. It captured the artwork so well. I don't think I have any inclination to read it. I don't think we have it. We do have a lot of graphic novels, comic books in the house. I don't think this is one we have. If we did, I would read it for sure. But I'm not going to go out and buy a graphic novel, especially the prices they tend to be sold at these days. If I was going to buy a graphic novel, this would be quite far down the list. But it is absolutely brilliant as a story, at least. I'm assuming that the movie is pretty similar to the graphic novel. So yeah, if you prefer books to movies, definitely get it. Next up is 47, A Mercy by Toni Morrison, 2008. I haven't read any Toni Morrison, and that's a huge gap in my reading. I don't think I would start with A Mercy. I don't think I need to read all of Toni Morrison, but I definitely need to read some of the bigger ones for sure. Number 46 is The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt, 2013. Very talked about Donna Tartt, between The Goldfinch and Secret History. Hugely influential, I think. I tried reading The Goldfinch and I just couldn't get into it. I don't know if it was just because it's a long book and I was hot, and I think I tried to read it when I was living in Barcelona. I just didn't have time for it. I think I probably still have a copy somewhere, actually. It does kind of sound like a type of book I would like if I could just get like 50 pages in and get a bit of momentum. I probably would finish it. The Argonauts by Maggie Nelson, 2015. I know Maggie Nelson, but I don't know this one. Oh, Olivia Laing was blurbed on the front cover of this particular copy, and I liked Olivia Laing's book, so that I read. Don't think I want to read this though. The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, 2015. Not a huge fan, or haven't read a lot of modern sci-fi. I tend to prefer silly old pre-1960 sci-fi. especially apocalyptic and doom and gloom stuff. I don't know. I think this is high fantasy too, is it? Or is this just a fan? I don't know enough about N.K. Jemisin. I don't think I want to read that though. Post-War by Tony Judt, 2005. So this is basically a post-war book. There's not a huge... I don't think there's a huge amount of all-encompassing post-war books. So I think it would be quite interesting one to read. So yeah, I definitely would read it if I saw it at a little free library or something. I would definitely pick that up. Will I seek it out? Probably not the first non-history I'll seek out, but definitely would read it if it was made easy for me. Essentially, that's so much of my life is I'll do something if it's easy. Brief history, number 42, A Brief History of Seven Killings by Marlon James. Yeah, this blurb is the very little write-up on this is basically brief. For a work spanning nearly 700 pages, that word is at best a winky misdirection. I still want to read Marlon James, but I'm going to read the more fantasy one. I can't remember what it was called. And it's a tiger, red tiger or something. Completely butchered that title, but I'm going to read that one. And if I like that one, maybe I'll read more of his. This one does sound good though, but it's just 700 pages with everything else I have to read. Yeah, I think I would start. I think I did try to read the fantasy one briefly, but I think it was a library book, and it was when it was quite popular still, so I didn't want to hang on to it for too long, so I just gave it back and without reading it. Number 41, Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan, 2021. Again, quite a current book. But yeah, I really want to read this. Because the people that have read it and liked it really liked it. I think it's just one of them, like Brian from Bookish. It's one of the ones he always goes. I think it's this one that he always says is like absolutely fantastic book, and he's certainly a reader I trust judgment in, and there's other people. I just can't remember the other people that liked it, and I don't want to say someone really liked the book and it turns out they actually hated it. But the people that liked it really liked it. So, and Claire King is Irish, right? And I tend to like Irish writers with some small caveats, especially particularly modern Irish writers. But I'm quite interested in Ireland. I have been my whole life. So always like to try to keep up, even though I haven't done that much recently. H is for Hork by Helen MacDonald. I own this. It's shocking that I still haven't read it. Oh, this is 2015. I really thought it was older than that. It's shocking that I haven't read it yet. I also own, is it T. White, the Goshawk book? I own that, which is, very much Helen MacDonald must have been inspired. Must be like a favorite book of Helen MacDonald's. It's a very good book in describing what it is like to train goshawks. So yeah, definitely gonna read this. Number 39, A Visit from the Goonscod by Jennifer Egan, 2010. Haven't read this one. I did read one of the follow-ups, which was like a spy thriller-y type thing, which was good. I liked it. It was, which one was it? Did it have Manhattan in the my memory is terrible for these books right now. So yeah, I heard, did they make a movie out of this and it was terrible, but everyone likes the book. It does sound really good. Oh, it's 13 linked stories. I'm not always a fan of the linked story format. That's probably why I haven't read it, why I put it off. Because it's like, if you like this, try Girl, Woman, Other. I still also haven't read that, and I think part of it is because of the interlinked stories kind of format. Okay, number 38, The Savage Detectives by Robert Bolano, translated by Natasha Wimmer, 2007. I don't think I'm ever gonna read Robert Bolaño. I know he's very popular. He's very much celebrated, especially on BookTube. I just don't think he's for me. I don't know why, actually, but I just don't think he's for me. I haven't read a lot of Latin American novels. I don't know why, actually. I probably should start reading more. I mean, one of my favorite poets is Pablo Neruda, so I should really probably stray more into the Latin American literature too. The Years by Annie Ernaux, translated by Alison L. Strayer, 2018. I haven't read any Annie Ernaux, but I probably should read something at some point. I don't know if I would start with The Years, though. Ta-Nehisi Coates, Between the World and Me, 2015. I know a lot of my friends have read this and loved it. Every time I see Ta-Nehisi Coates, though, his politics just becomes more and more insufferable to me. I think he's more liberal than I am, and I don't mean that I'm further to the right. I mean I'm way further to the left. I would describe my politics as more radical than even progressive. I'm probably more radical than progressive, especially these days. But I'm definitely never been a liberal. I think liberalism is a bit too wishy-washy, and it's just basically too pro-capitalism for me. So yeah, I don't think I'm gonna read Ta-Nehisi Coates. There's a lot better. I think there's a lot better books dealing with similar subjects. Fun Home by Alison Birchdale, 2006. No, I don't think I'm much of a Bechdel fan. Again, I think there's just that kind of thing is done better by other people, and I just don't have any inclination to read it. Citizen by Claudia Rankine, 2014. Yeah, I probably will. I feel like Claudia Rankine is really being touted as like the modern day Langston Hughes, and I'm a big fan of Langston Hughes, so I feel, or at least Claudia Rankine is very much influenced by Langston Hughes at the very least. So I feel like I probably should read her at some point. Salvage the Bones by Jesmyn Ward, 2011. This is the one I'm gonna read from Jesmyn Ward. I'll read this, I think. And then if this is good, I'll delve into the others. But I have a feeling this is probably her best book. And it deals with Hurricane Katrina again, another absolutely seminal event from the 21st century that's going to be still talked about in like 50 years' time, I imagine, especially about how terrible the response was to it. How much it showed ingrained problems that are still in the American system, aka racism, and kind of how not having adequate public service really is terrible, like on a day-to-day basis, but it's just even exacerbated when you have a major catastrophe. And even to this day, there are people that are still displaced. Like, people never went back. A whole community was displaced, and it has massive repercussions on today's New Orleans. Number 32, The Line of Beauty by Alan Hollinghurst. I want to read Alan Hollinghurst. Is this where I start? I don't know. Am I gonna necessarily like him? I don't know. He tends to write about middle class to upper middle class people. I used to really like those kind of books, but I'm definitely becoming less and less sympathetic. But I've heard he's really, really good, and this one deals with the AIDS, or it's just before the AIDS epidemic. It's the early 80s, so it's just before, I think. So, always very interested in any books that deals with the AIDS epidemic or pre or post. White Teeth by Zadie Smith, 2000. So this is like this is gonna be right on the cusp. I watched the TV series. I think the TV series is a little bit underrated. I think White Teeth, I don't like, for more younger people, I don't know if you fully grasp how much hype and how much at least the British literary world got behind White Teeth. It was a huge book. Zadie Smith was absolutely unknown. This was her debut. Completely unknown. This book, I think it was, I don't know, was it the Richard and Judy? Were they doing that book club at that time? I feel like it was like one of those book clubs picked it up. Everyone was talking about it. So much mainstream press that like wouldn't normally necessarily cover books was talking about it. It is really, I think it is a love letter to mixed race Britain. I think it really does deal with a lot of the issues, but also I think ultimately it's saying I'd rather have this than the alternative as well. I think it really is a celebration of modern Britain. I need to read it again, actually. Did I ever finish it? I definitely read it because of how big it was. I need to read it again. I think I probably have a copy. I'm sure I have a copy of it. I have a copy of quite a few other Zadie Smiths. Like I said, I'm gonna read all of Zadie Smith. I think she's phenomenal. And that doesn't mean that everything she's written is phenomenal, but just her as a person and as an academic, I tend to love her essay writing. I think she possibly better as an essay writer than a novelist. But that's not to say that her novels, like, she's written some good novels and she's written some bad novels. But that's quite normal for some of the best writers. Number 30, Sing Unburied Sing, Jesmyn Moore, 2017. So I guess this is probably... Is Sing Unburied Sing the most celebrated of her books? But probably Salvage... what was it? Salvage Your Bones? Salvage My Bones? Salvage... Whatever the Salvage one was. Salvage the Bones. That's probably... more the reader's favorite. I don't know. Like I said, I'll read Salvage the Bones first, and then I'll go. If I like that, then I'll read Sing Unburied Sing. I guess Salvage the Bones came out first too, so it makes sense. Yeah, and then I have a feeling that's probably where I'll stop with Jesmyn Moore until she comes out with a new one. The Last Samurai by Helen DeWitt. Number 29, 2000. Again, this is one of the earliest ones. I'm glad this made the list because I feel like this is whenever I want to hear people a lot of time when I hear people talk about what's the best book of the 21st century, or what's a modern book that more people should read that doesn't get enough love. I feel like The Last Samurai by Helen DeWitt is the one that people go to, and the ones that people have read. For the people that have actually read this book, I feel like it's the one that people are like, wow, why is this book not just being spoken about on a daily basis? So I definitely want to read this. I've been meaning to read this for a long time. Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell, 2004. Again, this was a huge literary sensation. I feel like David Mitchell this wasn't his debut, was it? I feel like he had a few books come out that really had gone under the radar, no one was really talking about, and then he comes out with the Cloud Atlas, and boom, the career just absolutely takes off. Again, this is, all the book clubs were doing it. Got made into the movie later on with was it Tom Hanks? Never watched the movie. Never read the book, never really that interested. It sounded a little, I don't know, maybe I got a completely wrong idea about it, but it seemed a little new agey and hippie-ish to me, but maybe that's a different book I'm thinking of. Even though I love Somerset Maugham's On the Razor's Edge, which also kind of delves into that a little bit, but I think when you're as good a writer as Somerset Maugham, you can get away with a lot. Americana by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I haven't read any Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I probably start with half of A Yellow Sun and then read this. I know when this came out, people were disappointed. And I know reading Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie now is a little difficult, but as someone once said, a lot of the people that are saying you shouldn't read, like J.K. Rowling and Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, have already read them, so it is a little unfair to then say, well, the next generation can't read them. Like, you can read them and come to your own conclusions, and you can read them and like them and still think they're horrible people. So some very talented people are disgusting individuals. Are just absolutely horrible people. It doesn't deny their talents, though. You can just decide whether you want to support that financially. Like, you don't have to. Just because someone's talented, you don't have to read them as well. Like, it's perfectly fine. So yeah, I probably will at some point, but I'm not in any hurry to read. Ian McEwan, Atonement, number 26, 2002. I have the book. I have not read it. I have been meaning to read it since the movie came out. I watched the movie in the cinema. Absolutely fantastic. I believe that was Saoirse Ronan's first movie, but it's definitely the one that launched her to stardom. because she's absolutely fantastic. I think she was like 13 or something in the movie, 13, and she has a very thick Irish accent that she somehow I forgot completely. Didn't realize she was Irish. Obviously the name gives it away, but like her upper class English accent is fantastic. Such an incredible actor. Completely acts off Keira Knightley and your man James, whatever his surname is, James McFadden, James. Completely acts them off the screen. I think the only person who really rivals her is Roma Garreley, who actually, funny enough, plays the Saoirse Ronan character later on in life. So they steal the movie, and Roma Garreley is also Irish, right? And isn't in it enough for my liking, but the movie is really good. The movie is really good. It's definitely a very well made, very beautifully shot too. In even though it's quite stark at points, it's very technically well done. So yeah, I gotta read it. It's also it's also one of the kind of tropes that I like. Is someone making a mistake, or someone telling a lie that has catastrophic consequences for either the person or other people. For some reason, I just like it happens in a lot of noir fiction, a lot of the noir movies as well. It was like basically someone's in the wrong place at the wrong time, or someone makes what appears to be quite an innocent decision, maybe a wrong decision, maybe a lie or a joke or something, but it just snowballs into the worst possible outcomes. I don't know why I like that so much, but it's definitely something I do like to read about. Random Family by Adrienne Nicole LeBlanc. 2003, never heard of it. Oh, but Matthew Desmond, who wrote the book Evicted, Poverty and Profit in the American City, is the one that wrote the little blurb here. So that's interesting. What's it? Unmatched in depth and power and grace, a profound, achingly beautiful work of narrative non-fiction. Oh, okay, that's why I haven't heard of it, because non-fiction is massively under reported, under critical review, and in general bookish world. But I feel like definitely in I find that in BookTube there's a lot more non-fiction than there used to be. It's great, and all the non-fiction people who do the non-fiction channels are fantastic. The ones I tend to read though are people who definitely read a lot more like history. There's not a lot of contemporary non-fiction, like non-fiction that deals with contemporary issues. It's very, and it's understandable, because a lot of those books tend to be very fleeting. They're very of the moment. They tend to, if they're popular for like 15 minutes and then they go away, because, you know, the kind of story has moved on. And sadly, even a lot of the books, just because it can take 3-4 years to get a book published, especially non-fiction, tends to be a little bit longer than your fiction. What's relevant when they start out writing it can be drastically irrelevant by the time it's published. So it's actually quite hard. It's quite hard to do contemporary nonfiction. And the whole reportage thing really kind of, it was really started in I guess the 60s with In Cold Blood. Truman Capote really kind of kind of started, where it was like there was less of a distance. The journalism, it was more like you're actually in there, involved, and it's you're actually bringing your own experience and your own emotions to the story, rather than trying to be completely impartial and unemotional. I feel it's quite interesting. Yeah, I would, if I saw this, now that I know it, if I see it all random family, I would grab it, especially like in the library or something. Yeah, it's about people experiencing deep hardship. Yeah, I would read it. Richard Powell's The Overstory, 2018. That's number 24. Yes, I really need to read this. I attempted to read it when it first came out, and I can't remember why I didn't. Maybe it had a huge hold. Maybe it was a huge hold line on in the library, and I just gave up. But I do need to read that. Hate Ship, Friendship, Courtship, Love Ship, Marriage, Alice Munro, 2001. That's number 23. Pass. Number 22, Behind the Beautiful Rivers, Catherine Boo, 2012. Never heard of it, but it looks like it is about India. Is winner of the Pulitzer? Is this non-fiction or is this fiction? It's set in Mumbai. They're saying if you like. So this is interesting. If the smash movie Slumdog Millionaire gave the world a feel-good story of transcending caste in India via pluck and sheer improbable luck, it's non-fiction. Boo's non-fiction exploration of several interconnected lives on the squalid outskirts of Mumbai is its sobering, necessary corrective. I mean, there's lots of incredibly sombering moments in Slumdog Millionaire. And as some people have said when the movie came out, there's a lot of hardship before you get to the uplifting bit. Like, it's actually, Slumdog Millionaire probably does a lot better job of showing Indian life and like what it is to live in the shanty towns in Mumbai than it does about celebrating like random success. But also, for an article about books, why is it not mentioning the book that Slumdog Millionaire adapted? I feel like people forget that it's actually an adaptation of a book, and I believe the person who wrote the book is from Mumbai, and that's why it's so good. Like, I don't think Danny Boyle knows much about what's going on in India, but he read the book and he adapted it, did a brilliant adaptation. So I feel like the novel the book, yeah, it's a novel, right? Yeah, I feel like the novel should get more the credit and name check than it does. And I can remember the title because it's not Slumdog Millionaire, because it's a play on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. It's very much cites something that's probably protected property or whatever, so they couldn't name it that in the movie. I think that's why they changed the name. I will get back to you on that one. 21 Evicted, Matthew Desmond, 2016. Oh yes, Matthew, I just talked about him earlier. Yeah, what's his other book? Didn't he do another book about poverty in America? That I think I've read. I haven't read Evicted, but I should be reading Evicted. I should read Evicted, actually, because the housing crisis is... I mean, this is 2016. The housing crisis has only just gotten worse, I think. And it is definitely... The 21st century is probably the biggest issue. Well, one of the biggest... I can't say it's the biggest, but one of the biggest issues surrounding... Western government's inner policy, like definitely like there's probably bigger issues regarding foreign policy, but in terms of internal countries' policies in the West, I think the housing crisis is definitely the biggest issue. Oh, yes, this is fantastic. Number 20, Personal Erasure, 2001. I actually didn't realize it was 2001. I thought this was written in 1999 for some reason. I read this around 2005, I think. I was definitely living on my own. Well, no, I was living on my own at the time, so it must have been around 2005. I had not long, a couple of years out of quitting after first year of university. I'm kind of really finding myself as a adult reader, I guess. I don't know. I read a lot of, like, I never read YA. YA wasn't really a thing until J.K. Rowling, and I just missed J.K. Rowling by a couple of years. The Harry Potter series kind of thing. So I read a lot of adult books, but I think I was kind of reading more classic stuff and things that were heavily promoted, heavily kind of like books you must read kind of thing. And I think Personal Erasure was definitely one of the first. It was in the era of me reading more stuff I'd sought out myself, and it is, and just Personal Erasure. When it comes to kind of writing about society and especially race in America, he's just one of the best authors, and he really takes the position that, like, people need to be hit over the head with this. Like, there isn't really anything subtle about Percival Everett, and that is refreshing and fantastic. I get the impression he doesn't care if he upsets a whole bunch of people. And he's always been, like, I think he's been writing since the 70s, and he's always been quite a counterculture under the mainstream, very much like if you know, you know kind of author. And the success that he has found since, I feel like, was it The Trees that really took him off, really made him mainstream. But I love that everyone is now going back to rediscover his earlier, I mean, this isn't even an early book, this is like a mid-career book. But the fact that everyone's going back to discover him, he's becoming a household name now, is, to me, is just fantastic. If someone asked me who is the most underrated author of the 1990s to early 2000s, I would say Percival Everett was, and now he isn't, so that's fantastic. And I really need to read this book again, and I think I still haven't read Not Sidney Poitier, which I hear is actually hilarious. So I definitely need to read Erasure again. I watched the movie American Fiction with Jeffrey Wright, who's one of my favorite actors, actually. He's an incredible actor. I watched that recently. It was really good at it. I thought it did it really well. Oh, the other thing about Erasure is another absolute favorite trope of mine: books inside books. And this is next level, because the book inside the book is actually supposed to be incredibly bad and offensive. It's basically like, especially in the 90s, there was a basically, if you were black, you kind of had to write about the projects and about how shit life in the projects was. And you know, this the character Thelonious Monk Ellison he's a professor. He wants to write like the great American novel. He wants to write highbrow. But his publishers just kept, no, can you just write about the projects? Can you write about gang culture or something? You're black, like, that's what you're supposed to do. And eventually he's just like, I need money. okay. And so he writes what and also to get them kind of off his back too. He's like, I'll just write like a terrible version of it, and it ends up being like a success. And yeah, but the book inside the book is intensely supposed to be like cliched and terrible, and so to write that, have passages from that inside your book, it's just it's such a book inside a book is such a hard thing to do, but he does it so well, and he does it in the hardest way possible. But anyway, if you haven't got any of us, just Personal Ever is a must read. Say Nothing, which is the Patrick Radden Keefe Northern, like the Troubles book. I haven't read it. I need to listen to his podcast, actually. I keep getting adverts for his podcast about the rumor that the CIA wrote, was it Scorpion Tune? I need to listen to that first, actually, because that sounds really fascinating. So I haven't read this. If I'm gonna read a Patrick Radden Keefe, I'm probably gonna read the Empire of Pain about the prescription drug issue in America. I do have a hang up about people writing about the Troubles that aren't from the island of Ireland. I know he probably did a whole lot of research. I imagine it's probably amazing. It's probably very nuanced. It's probably not completely pandering to the outsider perspective. But I don't know. It's such a touchy subject. It's so nuanced. It's so tribalist that, I mean, and in some way, I am probably on one of the tribes, so I probably tend to gravitate towards the more pro-Republican side, the pro unification side. I probably tend towards that, so I'm probably part of the problem in some regards, but I just find that I just much prefer to read for people who were more affected by it, I guess. That's a hang up from me. That's definitely like my issue. Lincoln in the Bardo by George Saunders, 2017. Yes. If I'm going to read George Saunders, this is the book I'm going to read. Again, I don't really know too much about American history. I know who Abraham Lincoln was and the Civil War and stuff like that, but will I get the nuance? Probably not. But if I'm going to read a George Saunders, I'm going to read this one. The Sellout by Paul Beatty is number 17. That's 2015. I have this book. I've read half of it and then I gave up for some reason, and I can't remember. But then I found it in either found it in a secondhand store or a little free library, and so I now have a copy of it. It was okay. It was bizarre. Definitely satire on race. I think I need to read the whole thing to know if he actually pulled it off, though. Number 16, The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, Michael Chabon, 2000. Again, this is one of the early entrants. So that's kind of good to see that, like, not everything is super modern. So there have been some things that have really caught, and, like, I feel like over 20 years, almost 25 years after it was released, I feel like that's a pretty good sample size of how much staying power this book will have. So as like something that was in 2019, that might be forgotten about in 5 years. or even just 1-2 years time, right? So I feel like it's gonna still be around in the next 10 years if it's already survived 25 years. I haven't read it. Everyone loves it. Don't know. Don't know if I'm gonna read it. I guess it's set in the first heyday of the American comic book industry. So, 30s to 50s, that's a period of America that I do like. But, yeah. I think I have another Michael Chabon. Do I have another Michael Chabon book? Possibly. Number 15 is Pachinko by Minji Lee, 2017. No, I don't think I want to read this. I don't think I have it either. Outline by Rachel Cusk, 2015. Nope, don't have any interest in reading Rachel Cusk. Number 13, The Row by Cormac McCarthy, 2006. I watched the movie. I don't think I need to read the book. I don't think I like Cormac McCarthy. He seems a bit of an idiot. He seems a bit of a... depressing guy to know. I don't know. I don't think I need to read Cormac McCarthy. I know he has a lot of people who really think he's a genius and amazing and stuff. I don't know if I need to. I feel like I've read other versions. I feel like I've read other authors who kind of do a similar thing. And I don't think I really need to read him. Year of Magical Thinking, Joan Didion, 2005. I don't know what it is, but I haven't really ever felt the urge to read Joan Didion. And this was voted for by Megan Abbott, and I like Megan Abbott. But, yeah, not sure I need. The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wu by Juno Diaz. Again, I haven't had an inkling to read Juno Diaz. And this was their first novel. Yeah. It's not making me want to read. Marilyn Robson, Gilead is not number 10, 2004. I am... Is this... Oh, I don't know. Yeah. I am not really that excited by that. Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. Is this the one that's set in the school? Yes. Yeah, I watched the movie. The movie was really good. I did like the movie, actually. I don't think I need to read the book, though. Again, Kazuo Ishiguro, basically someone that has been in the cultural zeitgeist most of my reading life, especially when I've been reading adult books. Never had the inclination to read him. Austerlitz by W.G. Sebald. This was in 2001. Wow. Translated by Anthea Bell. That's number 8. I think this was right at the end. He died within weeks of this release. I do want to read W.G. Sebald. I probably will not start at Austerlitz, though, but I would probably read Austerlitz eventually. Definitely, it's in my wheelhouse. It's, refugee. Refugee is part of the Kidder transport, so basically an orphan at this point, and gets raised by people in Wales. So yeah, it's definitely in my wheelhouse of subject matter and tropes. Number 7, The Underground Railway by Colson Wellhall, 2016. I've been meaning to read this for a long time now, and I don't know why I keep putting it off. I think it's definitely one of those books. I think it will have staying power. I think this one will have staying power. I don't know if the Nickel Boys will, but I definitely think The Underground Railroad will. I think it's very much not only talks about America, especially race, about this time, but I think it also harks back to some historical as well. And I need to read it. Number 6, again, it's Robert Bolaño, translated by Natasha Wimmer. This is, did people say 2666? Did people say 2666? Is it 26666? I don't know. Let's go for 2666. No. Jonathan Franzen, The Corrections. I believe I have this novel. I don't know why. 2001, wow. I don't know why. I don't think I'm gonna like Jonathan Franzen. I must have just picked it up at Free Little Library and be like, I gotta read it to actually say I don't like Jonathan Franzen. Who knows? It's satirical. It's a satirical take on mental health, self-improvement, and instant gratification. Well, I can get behind that. The Known World by Edward P. Jones, 2003. Yes, I know this book. I haven't read it, but it's on my radar to read. It's about a black farmer, bootmaker, and former slave, who has a humane, epic, and staggering feat of wily American storytelling. It's set in Virginia during the antebellum era. I need to. Yes. I think this comes up on a lot. I think this comes up a lot if books that, like, if you like this book set in the South written by a white author, then you should read Edward P. Jones. I think he comes up a lot in that. Like, you should read his books too. Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel, 2009. Yes, definitely need to read this. I think... Is this the most important... I think this is the most important English novel of the 21st century. I think hugely popular. Hugely influential. I think it got a whole lot of people more interested in English history than maybe any other fiction book. Definitely released in the 21st century, possibly even into the latter half of the 20th century. Again, like I said previously, Henry VIII had huge influence, for good and for bad, particularly bad, that is still being felt today. The One of Other Sons, that's interesting, by Isabel Wilkinson, 2010. Written in 2010, but I feel like this got resurgence during COVID, especially with all the George Floyds. People getting much more interested in the racial politics of America. And I think this does a really good job of... I have read this. Yes, I've read this. I think this is a really good look. I think this is a really good nonfiction book about the Great Migration of Black Americans from South to North, but particularly the industrial heartland. And it actually... I feel like it does a good job of really centering Black people in the... possibly the best economic period of American history. Was really the auto industry from the 1940s to 1960s was probably the greatest economic, like, once it recovered from the Great Depression and the Wall Street crash and everything. From then up until the 1960s, definitely the auto industry centered around Detroit was massively part of the greatest period of American capitalism, and a lot of those auto workers were Black. And also, so much of the workers during the war were Black as well, and I think they don't get their they definitely do not get any credit for the war effort. And then number 1, Elena Ferrante, My Brilliant Friend, translated by Anne Goldstein. This was released in 2012. This was the first volume of the 4-part book series. And is it gonna stay as a 4-part book series, or is there maybe rumors that another one will be written? Don't know. I am not surprised. This Elena Ferrante is probably the biggest publishing sensation in like 50, 60 years, I would say. I don't know what as a kid, but I feel like maybe in the 70s there was some, but I feel like anytime someone publishes a book under pseudonym and is very very coy, very much doesn't want to, is very much a secret about who the actual author's name is, I feel like that really just gets the publishing world in a tizzy, just piranhas with live bait, and everyone's just, and obviously the books have to be great. So obviously the books are really well written. I think from what I've heard, they're the right kind of between the more kind of literary kind of fiction and mainstream kind of popular fiction. So the people who the people in the publishing world that like to think of them as literary or intellectual and that can like them, but your average mainstream reader who just wants a good story could also really like it because it's just a really good story. And I think, even though I also think we don't get a huge amount of I don't think we get a huge amount of stories from Italy about just about everyday people growing up. I feel like, and especially not from a female's perspective either. So yeah, I feel like it is a little bit understood. I feel like the stories we get from Italy are a bit different. They're maybe a bit more schmaltzy, or they're just like more leaning into like the gangster fiction and stuff. I'm trying to think. I'm not the person to really talk about this. I don't read a lot of contemporary mainstream books, or any contemporary. I don't read many contemporary books, so I am not the person to talk about this. But definitely, I really need to read Elena Ferrante. Like I said, it's one of the best publishing successes and stories of probably the last 50 years. And that is it. I read as much as I thought I would, which is about 3 books. Maybe there's a bit more on here that I want to read. Definitely surprised that definitely surprised Sally Rooney's not on it. Definitely surprised that Anna Burns is not on it. It's a lot of this list does feel like the New York Times reached out to all these people 6 months ago, and then about 2 weeks before publication, they were like, "Oh, we haven't got your list yet. We're publishing in 2 weeks. Can we get it by the end of the week?" And a lot of people were like, "Oh, I completely forgot about that. Okay, what were the prize winners, or what books? Oh, I like those Ella Ferrante books. Let's vote for all of them. I remember Dennis Johnson wrote a couple of good books. I'll vote." Yeah, it has a lot of. It feels like a lot of just like rushed. But anyway, you're never like these lists are terrible. Like these lists, are always fought. I think the reason these lists are so popular is because they're absolute fodder for people being like, this list is terrible. But the thing with any kind of media is you want eyes on it and you want people interacting with it. And a negative response is still a response. So that's ideally what you want. So I get it. You're never going to please everybody. You're very much never going to please the majority of people. Actually, there was a very good analogy with someone that she said, talking about Taylor Swift. She's like, she's the most popular singer in the world, and yet the vast majority of the world either don't like her or don't care or have never heard of her. And she's the most popular. So even if you're wildly popular, you're still pretty much irrelevant to the majority of the population of the world. So that's just a little sombering thought. So yeah, these things are always gonna be cast with disdain. You'll get a few people who are like, yeah, that's a good list. And I think it's definitely the majority of BookTube has definitely said this is not a good list. I think I'm probably more on this, like, leaning towards Katie Books, in that it is just a bit of a boring list. There's a few in there, but there's very few chances. There's very few people who've gone out on a limb. It is just a lot of award winners, which, maybe those awards got it right. Maybe these are the greatest. I think you have a little bit of a sway when you go influential, though. Influential books aren't necessarily books that are even that good, right? You can have a book that is, average to good, but it could be hugely influential. But it also doesn't necessarily mean it has to have won a bunch of awards either, right? Like, it could be a small book that, enough of the right people have read it for it to be massively influential. But not a lot of people hasn't had wide support or wide mass reading. But anyway, that's my stupid thoughts on the whole matter. I quite enjoyed making these 2 videos, so let me know if you enjoy watching them. Maybe I'll do more reaction videos. Maybe I'll invest into doing some screen sharing rather than just have you watch me looking at my screen. Anyway, let me know what you think. And yeah, maybe I'll steal more of Katie Books' videos in the future if this one's successful. Have a great day. See you soon. Bye.